Darrell. It's good to have you on this session. We really appreciate the opportunity to actually provide some answers to questions that we have been given.
I'm Gerard. Pleasure to be here.
Today is one day that I've been looking forward to have someone different who adds a lot of good experience from a different perspective. The first question is, what principles do you live by? And why? Do you want to go for it, or you want me to start?
I think one of the principles, we probably have like a lot of principles that we live by. They might be applying for different areas of life as well. You might have like a principle towards your work, a principle towards how you're like choosing friends, like the last question that we had. You might also have like a principle in terms of like how do you want to live your life, etc. I guess one of the principles that I live by is probably working hard. Because growing up, we were always told if you work hard, you will always be rewarded, even though it's not just like at the moment immediately, but then down the track, over the long term, keep that mindset and principle will get you awarded. So that's probably my one.
I agree with you. We share that principle. I was also given that principle that working hard is very good, but also equally, like you have said earlier on, it's rare that people live by only one principle. People tend to live by many other principles. They are sort of like a cocktail of principles, but some principles are more important. We have a hierarchy of principles. Each one has this hierarchy that is sort of unwritten, that they uphold. For example, one of the principles that I value a lot is about respect. I think that respect is very important. Respect for parents, respect for colleagues. I think that people who respect each other tend to have good relationships, and respect tends to also create some kind of worth for others and worth for oneself. Because the more you respect yourself, the more you are likely not to do certain things that you do kind of put you down. So similarly, if you have a lot of respect for yourself, you will also not disrespect other people. So I find that to be true in a number of instances. The more you respect yourself, the more people tend to also respect you. I think it's also a give and take. If you disrespect people, people will disrespect you, and also they will probably not want to associate with you. So I find that principle very, very important. Going on from there, there are other principles that are also part of a composite or a group of principles. One of them is also about planning. I try to plan as much as possible what I'm going to do, not today only, probably. I try to plan for the whole year. It's a cumbersome process, but I find it very useful. I've heard people saying planning is a very boring exercise. I tend to prefer to have things a little bit more organized and more planned. That way, I think I can manage things if I know what I'm doing when in advance, and I start anticipating what problems I will encounter if I don't do certain things. I think it helps me to come up with a clearer picture of what I want to achieve. Because if I'm working towards something or setting objectives and setting goals, at least then I will be able to do that very easily if I plan in advance. Every time I plan something in advance, I kind of see myself achieving it and gaining a little bit more confidence in achieving those things. Yes, some things I don't achieve even if I've spent a lot of time planning, but it's so comforting for me to know that I've done some homework before doing anything, because then if something doesn't go on well, I know that I will have lacked in my planning, but most of the time I comfortably achieve them, but that is not to say everything that I plan I achieve. So yeah.
I think that's a really good one, to have goals and plans. It's probably more towards like the personal development area where you have something that you work towards. Because we also need to have like a purpose in life that you work towards. That can be like something that you want to achieve professionally or like financially or on a personal level, just be better.
Why is it important to have principles? It's sounds very exciting. Did you encounter a situation where you think if you didn't have these principles, perhaps you wouldn't have been where you are?
Yeah, I think some of the principles that we touched base earlier, like working hard and have a plan, definitely contributed to where we are today or where I am today. I guess that sort of bring me to the other principle that I also live on, is to always like stay curious and then never be afraid of doing new things. Especially what we learned during the past couple of years is you have to be always willing to make changes and be adaptable to the new situation. So I guess that definitely helped me in achieving where I am today, and then doing different things and then think about things differently from different aspects.
I find that having principles is helps me to make decisions faster. For example, whenever I think about the principle of working hard, I feel that if I didn't have that as a principle, I would have been complaining a lot. When I'm given any task to do, I would probably be complaining, and most likely some of the colleagues that I ended up working with, or where I've been recruited or been employed, or wherever I've been asked to join a team and become part of it, or wherever I've been asked to volunteer, perhaps people would not have offered me the opportunity to volunteer or a job, because if they had seen me complaining, because some of the people who offered me jobs in the past, I've actually worked with them in some other organizations. So because they've noticed that I've been working hard, so when an opportunity came in the organization that they've either moved to or where they wanted us to collaborate, they would always think of me and a hard worker that I've always been. So I think that while it is not easy to see the importance of having principles, looking back, I see that the mere fact that I had principles has actually endeared me to other people, and has actually brought sort of opportunities for me to be engaged in new roles, and to be part of a new team or a group of people that are doing something different. So yes, I think it's very good to have principles in advance, because actually it helps you to be endeared with other people, but also it helps you to make decisions faster, because whenever you encounter a situation that is unfamiliar, if it falls against or it goes against your principles, you will probably not spend a lot of time trying to consider it. For example, if it's something that, if it's a job that you don't like, or a sector or an industry where you say, I don't want to work in this sector. If you have principles, your principles guide you immediately, and you will not spend a lot of time making decisions. Because otherwise, if you don't have principles, what would happen is that every time you encounter a situation, you would need time to consider it, and that would slow your decision-making process. But if you already have the principles that say you shouldn't do this, for example, when I was growing up, I had a principle that I don't want to antagonize my parents. As long as I'm still living under their roof, I will try to do as much as possible of what they teach me to do, and I will follow their principles. So eventually I find that the principles are not very good. I would drop them. So every time I was instructed to do something, I would probably do it without a lot of spending a lot of time thinking about it. I would probably just go ahead and do it. But as I grew older, I started reviewing those principles. And as I left home, I started reviewing those principles and started considering whether I should continue with that principle or not. But at the time, it helped me to not antagonize parents, and made sure that I had good relationships with my parents. So it kind of improved relationships with my parents. They relied on me. They knew that whenever they said something, I would do it. And if I had a suggestion, I would raise a suggestion without necessarily complaining. So it kind of helped me to work well with them and also become a good son. Let's move on to, how do you choose friends?
I think that's a very big question. And then depending on your age and your situation, it might be slightly different. Like, for example, if you're at school, during school time, you might not have much choices. Like, your friends are probably someone that you met at school, or someone that you met through like your family, friends, etc. And then I guess all of the principles that we discussed sort of like fall into when you're choosing friends. Do you want to choose someone who have similar principles and thoughts as you? Or are you like sort of like, or just choose someone based on what they are and who they are? And then I guess when you grow older as well, your friends become more valuable in a way, because it's like less likely for you to like meet new people and new friends. And at that point, I guess all of the things they sort of learned would guide you in choosing your friends.
As for me, I think I found out that the way I choose friends has kind of changed over time. When I was in school, I pretty much didn't choose friends. I just went along with anyone who agreed with me. It wasn't a choice, really. It was sort of, if you're happy to be playing with me, let's play together. That is it. And over time, those relationships just grew. So we started off playing sports together outside the house, and over time we just continued playing together. So it wasn't so much about choosing; it was so much about availability, if I can call it that way. But over time, as I was going through college and started working, I kind of started paying attention to qualities of people, qualities that I liked. So I started pulling away from people who are always complaining, or people who didn't have ideas, or people who were not doing things that I kind of respected. I wanted someone who was making progress in something, who could teach me something that I like, or someone who was succeeding in something that was of interest to me. I also started looking for mentors. So they were not necessarily friends, but they were people who could teach me something. Whether they knew it or not, it wasn't so much that they needed to agree to teach me. It's just that I kind of followed them. So eventually they kind of recognized that I was following them and they were valuable to me. So we became friends. So that's how I kind of chose friends. So more lately, I think I find friends a little bit more formally, in the sense of we talk, we identify common ground or common interests. And if those things that are of interest to me are of interest to the person, then we continue to go on and we discuss things, and we make progress on those areas. We start visiting each other, we start working together on common projects, and we become closer. At this stage, I'm a little bit more comfortable saying no to friendships as well. In the past, when I was growing up, I thought I couldn't say no to someone. So it's something that came with age, or maybe with time, to just being able to identify relationships that you don't want, but also being proactive on relationships that I actually want, associating with people that I think will contribute positively to me. That's sort of something that has grown over time. It didn't come natural. I kind of felt shy to say to someone, no, you know what? I don't want to go along with you. I was not that upfront. I was a little bit shy to say that. But that has changed over time. I'm a little bit more upfront now, and I kind of know what I want. So I choose friends a little bit wisely now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. When you are at the school age or during school, you might choose based on availability. Always want someone to accompany you, to be like the popular kids at school where you have like a bunch of friends. But then as you grow older, you probably realize a lot of those come down to what do you want to do, and then what sort of people that you want to be surrounded by. And instead of having like one friend or one friend group, you might have like friends for different things. You might have like work friends, you might have like friends that you play sports with, friends that you do common project with, all sorts of different friends in life. Yeah, let us know how we go. And then if you need to have a little follow-up questions on any of the things, feel free to drop a comment and let us know. And then, yeah.
Let us know how you feel about our responses. Certainly, everyone has their own way of choosing friends, and certainly everyone has their own principles. Principles are are specific to individuals and for a reason. Generally, you would not expect everyone to have the same principles. Principles are based on what we value, and what we value is different. It differs from community to community as well. Principles are shaped by your background as well, what your family valued as you were growing up, what the community values. We don't expect that your principles should be the same for everyone, but there are certain underlying principles that we expect you to have across a community. But as you continue to review these principles, you will notice that even if you have certain principles that are expected within the community, how each and every one person values these principles might be different. You kind of prioritize certain principles as opposed to others. For example, people shouldn't steal. As a principle, one shouldn't steal, but you will find that sometimes people don't necessarily respect certain principles more than they do other principles. That does not necessarily mean that they don't have those principles. They have them. It's just that they probably don't stick to them very, very much compared to the others. So just not to confuse when we say, what principles do you have? Everyone generally has similar principles, but the way we value them and uphold them tends to create a distinction. So equally, it ends up creating a situation where what we value is not necessarily the same. But not to say the ones who don't necessarily value the things that we value don't necessarily have those principles. They have them. It's just that they don't necessarily put emphasis on them. So that's the distinction I'm trying to make, because lest we start saying that people don't have principles. They do have them. For example, people who steal, they might have actually been told not to steal. But what it simply means is that they not necessarily don't value that principle or uphold it to the same extent that each and every other person who doesn't steal do. You can build your own principles along the lines of what we have said. What we have said is not exhaustive. It's not everything. We were simply discussing principles, a few principles that we were upholding as we were growing up, and the principles that we uphold now. But even then, we didn't discuss all the principles that there is to uphold. It is up to an individual to decide what principles they want to uphold and to rank those principles according to the way they see them. The way they see them is also influenced by what family they come from and what they think is important for them at a particular point in time in life does change over time. So my main point here is to avoid a situation where one will assume that whatever we have said is all the principles and that is all there is to call as principles and to observe. So there you have it. Let us know what you think.